Hey friends, welcome back to our channel. I am so glad you're here. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. Go ahead, get comfy, maybe grab a little snack, a beverage, because today we are going on a journey. We're diving deep, and I mean into the seriously intriguing world of true crime, history, and mystery. You know how much I love a good story, especially one that makes you go, wait, what? We're going to be talking about some things that are just wild. From those stubborn, mind-bending, unsolved cases that have had investigators literally scratching their heads for decades, to those big, dramatic historical events that completely changed how we even think about crime, we're going to get into all of it. We'll explore the facts, the theories, the whispers, and all the juicy details that keep us up at night just staring at the ceiling, wondering what happened. It's the kind of stuff that just sticks with you, you know? So, I invite you to put on your little detective hats with me. Let's get our magnifying glasses out, maybe metaphorically, maybe for real, I don't judge. It's time to get down to business and unravel some of the most captivating, confusing, and downright creepy stories from the past. Are you ready? Because I am. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, we're heading to Fayetteville, West Virginia. The year is 1945 and it's Christmas Eve. The Sodder family, George, Jenny, and 9 of their 10 children, are all tucked away in their home, probably dreaming of what Santa might bring. But in the middle of the night, a fire breaks out. It's a horrible, fast-moving fire that engulfs their wooden house in what feels like seconds. George and Jenny, along with 4 of their children, manage to escape the inferno. But tragically, 5 of their children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, are believed to be trapped upstairs. It's an absolute nightmare. The family's frantic attempts to save the other children are just heartbreakingly futile. George's ladder, which was always kept in the same spot, is suddenly missing. His coal trucks, which he hoped to use to climb up to the second-floor windows, mysteriously won't start. The phone line is dead. By the time the fire department finally arrives, hours later, the house is nothing but a pile of smoldering ash. The official story is that the 5 children perished in the fire, but here's where it gets weird. When the rubble was searched, not a single bone, not a tooth, not any physical trace of the 5 children was ever found. Jenny Sodder, the mother, just couldn't accept it. She had worked at a crematorium, and she knew that even in an intense fire, bones should remain. This gut feeling started a lifelong search for her missing kids. The Sodders began to uncover strange details, like a neighbor who claimed to have seen the kids in a car during the fire, and a mysterious phone call weeks before the fire from a stranger making threats. They even put up a huge billboard with the children's faces, offering a reward for any information. For the rest of their lives, they believed their children weren't dead, but had been taken. To this day, no one knows for sure what happened on that tragic Christmas night. Okay, now we're jumping forward to 2013 and we're heading to a place with its own dark and sordid history, the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. If those walls could talk, they'd probably scream. This story revolves around a 21-year-old Canadian student named Elisa Lam. She was on a solo trip up the West Coast and checked into the Cecil, but then she just vanished. Her family, thousands of miles away, grew worried when they didn't hear from her, which was very out of character. They reported her missing and the LAPD started an investigation. Weeks went by with no sign of Elisa. The police were stumped. So, they decided to release a video to the public, and honestly, this video is probably more famous than the case itself. It's elevator surveillance footage, and it is chilling. In the video, Elisa gets into the elevator and starts acting bizarrely. She's pressing all the buttons, peeking out into the hallway as if she's hiding from someone, then stepping back in, gesturing with her hands like she's talking to a person no one else can see. The elevator doors themselves seem to be malfunctioning, refusing to close. It's 4 minutes of pure, unsettling weirdness that just raises more questions than it answers. The video went viral, and everyone had a theory. Was she on drugs? Was she having a psychotic break? Was someone just out of frame, threatening her? The real break in the case came in the most gruesome way possible. Guests at the Cecil started complaining about low water pressure and the water tasting strange. A maintenance worker went to check the hotel's massive water tanks on the roof and made a horrifying discovery. Floating inside one of the sealed tanks was the body of Elisa Lam. The autopsy ruled her death an accidental drowning, citing her bipolar disorder as a major factor. But how did she get onto the locked roof, climb into the tank, and close the heavy lid behind her? It just doesn't add up for a lot of people. Let's rewind to the late 1960s, Northern California. A shadow falls over the Bay Area, a shadow that calls itself the Zodiac. This isn't just a killer, this is a performer, a villain who wants everyone to know his name but not his face. The Zodiac is confirmed to have attacked at least 7 people, killing 5 in a series of brutal, seemingly random assaults. He used both guns and knives, targeting young couples in secluded lovers' lane-type spots. The attacks were terrifying because they felt like they could happen to anyone, anywhere. It was a reign of terror that gripped the entire state in fear. But what makes the Zodiac case so iconic, so haunting, is not just the murders themselves, it's the fact that he communicated with the public, the attention. He began sending taunting, handwritten letters to local newspapers like the San Francisco Chronicle. These letters were filled with chilling details about the crimes that only the killer could know, and he included these bizarre, complex ciphers or codes, promising that if anyone could crack them, they would reveal his true identity. He was playing a game with the police, the press, and the entire public. Of the 4 ciphers he sent, only 2 have ever been definitively solved. The most famous one, the Z408 cipher, was cracked by a schoolteacher and his wife. It was a rambling, egomaniacal message about how much he enjoyed killing people because it was so much fun. For decades, professional and amateur sleuths have pored over the evidence, the letters, the ciphers, the witness descriptions, desperate to unmask him. Countless suspects have been named, most famously Arthur Lee Allen, but no one has ever been definitively proven to be the Zodiac. He just faded away, leaving behind a legacy of fear and one of history's most frustrating cold cases. Let's set sail for this next one, all the way back to 1872. We're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. A British brigantine named the DEI Gracia is sailing along when its crew spots something strange. It's another ship, the Mary Celeste, and it's just drifting. It's moving erratically, its sails are a bit of a mess, and there's just an eerie silence about it. The captain of the DEI Gracia gets a bad feeling and decides to send a boarding party over to check things out. What they found has become one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. When the boarding party stepped onto the deck of the Mary Celeste, it was completely, utterly deserted. Not a soul was on board. But the ship itself was in pretty good shape. It was seaworthy, not taking on water. The ship's cargo, over 1,700 barrels of raw alcohol, was mostly untouched. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters. There was even a 6-month supply of food and water still stored away. It was like the 10 people who were supposed to be on board, Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and the 7-man crew, had just vanished into thin air. The only things missing were the ship's single lifeboat, the chronometer, and the sextant, which suggests the crew left the ship deliberately. But why? The ship's logbook gave no clues. The last entry was 10 days earlier and noted nothing unusual. Theories have been flying around for over a century. Was it pirates? A mutiny? Did the fumes from the alcohol cargo threaten to explode, causing them to panic and abandon ship? Or maybe something more out there, like a giant squid attack or even an alien abduction? Whatever happened, the 10 people of the Mary Celeste were never seen or heard from again, leaving behind a perfectly good ship and an eternal mystery. For this one, we're going to a remote farmstead in Germany called Hinterkaifeck. The year is 1922, and I have to warn you, this story is dark. The farm was home to the Gruber family, Andreas and Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her 2 young children, Cecilia and Joseph, plus the family's maid, Maria. But in the days leading up to the tragedy, strange things started happening. Andreas, the patriarch, told neighbors about finding a set of footprints in the snow leading from the forest to the farmhouse, but none leading back. He heard footsteps in the attic, and found a newspaper on the property that he'd never bought. It was all very unsettling. On the evening of March 31st, it seems the family members were lured one by one into the barn and brutally murdered with a mattock, which is like a pickaxe. The killer then went inside the house and murdered the remaining family members, including the 2-year-old Joseph in his crib and the brand new maid Maria, who had literally just arrived hours earlier. It was a massacre. But the part that makes this so much creepier is what happened next. The killer didn't just flee, they stayed. For several days after the murders, the killer lived in the house with the bodies. Neighbors noticed smoke coming from the chimney, and the farm animals were still being fed. It wasn't until 4 days later, when little Cecilia was absent from school, that a search party went to the farm and discovered the horrific scene. The police investigation was massive, interviewing over 100 suspects, but they never found the killer. Who would commit such a heinous act and then just hang around? Was it a drifter? Someone with a personal vendetta against the family? The mystery of who killed the Grubers at Hinterkaifeck remains one of Germany's most chilling and infamous unsolved crimes. Okay, for our final story, we are taking to the skies with an absolute icon, a legend, Amelia Earhart. It's 1937 and Amelia, already a world-famous aviator, is attempting her most ambitious feat yet, to become the first woman to fly around the world. She and her navigator, Fred Noonan, had already completed over 22,000 miles of the journey. They were on one of the final, most dangerous legs of the trip, a 2,500-mile flight over the vast, empty Pacific Ocean, from Lae, New Guinea to a tiny speck of land called Howland Island. This was a huge navigational challenge, even for an experienced navigator like Noonan. Howland Island is only 2 miles long and half a mile wide. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is the entire Pacific Ocean. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca was waiting near the island to guide them in with radio signals. Amelia's radio transmissions started coming through, but they were staticky and broken. She reported that she was low on fuel and couldn't see the island. Her last known transmission was, "We are on the line 157337. We are running on line north and south," and then, silence. Amelia Earhart, Fred Noonan and their plane, the Electra, vanished. The U.S. government launched the largest and most expensive sea search in history at the time, but they found nothing. Not a single piece of wreckage, no oil slick, nothing. The official theory is that they ran out of fuel, crashed into the ocean and sank without a trace. But of course, that's not the only theory. Some believe they were captured by the Japanese, others that they were secret government spies, and a very popular theory suggests they crash-landed on a different uninhabited island and lived as castaways. Despite countless expeditions and endless speculation, the fate of Amelia Earhart remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century. Wow, what a ride, right? From the heartbreaking and deeply strange fate of the Sodder children who may have vanished into thin air, to the absolute enigma of a trailblazer like Amelia Earhart flying off into history, these stories are just something else. These true crime cases and historical mysteries remind us that our past is filled with these lingering questions and shadows. There are so many stories where the final chapter was just never written, and it's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying. Each one of these cases is like a puzzle, with half the pieces missing. They invite us to put on our thinking caps, to dig a little deeper, and to really seek out the truth, even if the truth is that we may never know for sure. It's a humbling reminder that some things just remain in the realm of the unknown, and that's what keeps us talking about them, wondering about them, all these years later. It's the not knowing that's so powerful, you know? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and going on this journey through true crime, history, and mystery. If you enjoyed it and want to dive into more stories like these, you know what to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next session. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.